Module 12, the lymphatic system. Types of acquired immunity and autoimmunity. Your body can have acquired immunity in 4 ways. Active natural immunity happens when the body is exposed to a pathogen. A good example of this is the chickenpox virus. If you had chickenpox when you were young, your body was exposed to the virus and you got sick. But after that, if you're ever exposed to the chickenpox virus again, you won't get sick because your body has made memory B cells to quickly respond to the infection. You can imagine that active natural immunity is a long-term immunity because B cells keep making antibodies and will be activated immediately if you are exposed ever again to that specific invader. Active artificial immunity is when you are immune to an infection because of a vaccine. Like natural immunity, your body reacts to the initial invasion. However, that invasion is artificially induced. You still produce memory B cells, which make antibodies though, so this is a long-lasting immunity also. Passive natural immunity occurs between a mother and her baby. Remember when I discussed IgG antibodies? I mentioned that they are the most common type of antibody, and they can move across the placenta during pregnancy. That means that the unborn baby will have the same immunity that the mother has. And IgA antibodies are found in breast milk, so a breastfeeding baby will also gain immunity to those invaders that the IgA antibodies of the mother fight. Can you see how this is passive immunity? The baby did not contract an illness and did not make its own antibodies, but gained the antibodies from the mother. This is opposed to the 2 types of active immunity when the individual's own body makes the antibodies because of its direct exposure. The last type of acquired immunity is passive artificial immunity. This is when a different person becomes exposed to a specific pathogen and then makes antibodies to fight off that pathogen. Those antibodies are removed from that person if he or she donates blood. The recipient of that blood transfer then will have immunity to that same pathogen, though his or her body did not directly become infected with it. Believe it or not, passive artificial immunity doesn't necessarily require the donor to be a human. In some cases, an animal, such as a horse, can be injected with a pathogen, and then its antibodies can be given to the person who needs that specific immunity. This is not a long-lasting treatment, though, because the antibodies will eventually break down, and the human will not make more. A good example of this is the disease called rabies. It's a potentially deadly disease caused by a virus. You probably have heard of this disease, which can be caught if a person gets bitten by an infected animal such as a bat or a raccoon. Well, most people in the United States do not have immunity to rabies. But because this disease is so rare, it is not necessary to immunize everyone for it. The only people who are immunized are those most likely to come in contact with the disease, such as veterinarians and some folks in the military. They are injected with a weakened form of the rabies virus. Thus, they will produce rabies antibodies via active artificial immunity. Their bodies actively make the antibodies due to the artificial scenario of them receiving the antigen. But thanks to passive artificial immunity, the entire U.S. population doesn't need this vaccination. You see, those who have been vaccinated with the rabies virus can donate their blood. It will have antibodies that fight off the rabies antigen. If it is suspected that another person received the rabies virus, they can be injected with the donated anti-rabies antibodies. This type of immunity is passive because the person did not make the antibodies himself. This provides a quick but short-term protection to fight off the immediate infection. After a while, the antibodies will break down, but by that time they've fought off the rabies virus. And now, that person who was bitten will begin to produce their own anti-rabies antibodies, which is an active artificial immunity. Now, there's one more type of immunity, but it's not a good type. It's autoimmunity. Auto means self, and this immunity type means that the person's body cannot tell the difference between the MHC of his own cells and the MHC of other cells. Thus, the body will begin attacking its own cells. One type of autoimmune disease is multiple sclerosis. It's a condition where the lymphatic system can't tell the difference between the body's neuroglia and foreign neuroglia, so it starts to attack the myelin sheaths of the body's nerves. Thus, the person begins to gradually lose control of skeletal muscles as well as the sense of feeling. Other types of autoimmune disease include rheumatoid arthritis, myasthenia gravis, and lupus erythematosus. After studying this module, hopefully you can see that our bodies have a wonderfully designed system to provide protection against a myriad of potential invaders. This battle often happens without us even being aware of it, but you can be certain that it does occur. Surely you can remember the last time you were sick, and you can thank the omniscient designer for enabling the body to have defenses to make you well again. And as scientists learn more about how the human body works, they are able to aid our bodies in their epic battles as they are ever diligent to fight off foreign attackers.